second chapter 6. Chapter is called Purusha Shukta Confirmed. So this is the second verse. Sarvashunam cha vayoscha Tannase paramayane Ashvinor oshadinam cha Grano moda pramodaya Sarva all Asunam different kinds of life air Cha and Vayo of the air Cha also Tat his Nase in the nose Parama ayane in the transcendental generating center Ashvinoho of the Ashvini Kumara demigods Oshadinam of all medicinal herbs Cha also Granaha his smelling power Moda pleasure Pramodaya specific sport. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. His two nostrils are the generating centers of our breathing and of all other airs. His smelling powers generate the Ashwini Kumara demigods and all kinds of medicinal herbs, and his breathing energies produce different kinds of fragrance. Please repeat. His two nostrils are the generating centers of our breathing and of all other airs. His smelling powers generate the Ashwini Kumara demigods and all kinds of medicinal herbs. And his breathing energies produce different kinds of fragrance. So there's no purport, so I'm just keep reading. I'll just read. Text 3. Rupanam tejasam chakshur divasa suryasya chakshini Karmodisham cha tirtanam shotram akasha shaddhaya. Translation. His eyes are the generating centers of all kinds of forms, and they glitter and illuminate. His eyeballs are like the sun and the heavenly planets. His ears hear from all sides and are respectos for all the Vedas. And his sense of hearing is a generating center of the sky and of all kinds of sound. So it's a very short purport by Srila Prabhupada. The word Tirthanam is sometimes interpreted to mean the places of pilgrimage, but Srila Jiva Goswami says that it means the reception of the Vedic transcendental knowledge. The Prapandas of the Vedic knowledge are also known as the Tirthas. I'll just keep reading also, be very short. Many of these verses are connecting to one another so much that we have to read. And Srila Prabhupada gives very short comments. So in this case, Tirthanam is a Sanskrit word. It has many meanings. Obviously, places where the holy persons, the great personalities, saintly personalities, had appeared and taught the Siddhanta, particular great teachers, Mahajanas, great personalities who blessed the land, often called holy place, Tirtha. Tirtha is where the lotus feet of a great devotee touched. The dust of that land is Tirtha. It's a very holy place. Tirtha has also meanings in relation to Krishna himself. Like, for example, the Lord is residing here, so the land is also blessed. So Krishna. Actually, there are Sanskrit slokas in various Puranas, Skanda Purana, Padma Purana. Just having the presence of the Lord, not to speak of Vrinda Devi, Tulsi Devi, within the radius of 24 miles, considered a Tirtha. And within the radius of 2 miles, anyone departs from this world, get the ultimate blessings of the Lord. So this is just to meditate how kind Krishna is descending for us in the form of the Archana, a deity form of the Lord, so we can perceive Him and offer Him love and devotion. The Lord is appearing in a three-dimensional form, so we can experience Him, we can feel Him, we can touch Him, we can dress Him, we can cook for Him, we can do all kinds of devotional activities for Him. Otherwise, we have no comprehension, no perception of a higher dimensional transcendental personality, a divine personality as Krishna. We can hear about Him, and by love and devotion, feeling of affection, attachment, we can feel Him in our hearts. We can perceive Him. We can only see Krishna with the ointment of love, as in the Brahma Samhita. Lord Brahma clearly describes Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Vajami. There are many verses in the Brahma Samhita where he explains that actually one who has prema, one who has love, they can perceive Him. Otherwise, very difficult. It's not possible. Therefore, in the beginning stages of devotional service, we humbly hear Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, remembrance also. So that way, with that remembrance, with that hearing and chanting, we can feel the Tirtha, we can feel the Tirtha. But also, as the purport Srila Prabhupada says, Tirtha has, the word Tirtha also means the propounders of Vedic knowledge, revealers of Vedic knowledge, the great teachers, the great Mahajanas. Mahajanas means the great authorities of our Vaishnava philosophy, great teachers. And Bhishmadev was one of them, Hanuman was another one, Narada, all great personalities. As we study the Shastras, the scriptures, we can see the unique individuality and powerful teachings, clarifying all misconceptions, defeating all opponents, philosophical debaters who challenged Siddhanta, challenged the Vaishnava perception of Krishna, obviously in the favor of His Supreme Personality, beyond just like in the earlier purport, the impersonal, universal form of the Lord. Although in the universal form, it is already connecting to this form, because every universal form has limbs and forms and unlimited forms. So a Vaishnava can understand these things in a proper context. And Krishna manifests all kinds of forms for His particular purpose, particular functions, and His agency is also manifesting. So Tirtha is a powerful meaning in a particular context. So I just read the verses. Text 4. Tad gatram vastu sharanam sobhagasya cha bhajanam tvagasya sparsha vayoscha sarvamedasya chaivahi. Translation. His bodily surface is breeding ground for the active principles of everything, and for all kinds of auspicious opportunities. His skin, like the moving air, is the generating center for all kinds of sense of touch, and is the place for performing all kinds of sacrifice. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This is also a very short purport. The air is the moving agent of all the planets. And as such, the generating centers for promotion to the deserving planets, the sacrifices, are his bodily service, and are naturally the origin of all auspicious opportunities. So you can see a lot of these meanings if you actually read the whole chapter, and even before this chapter, cause of all causes. So it's a bit difficult to understand if you just take it out of context. So just like any story, it has to be in the right context to fully comprehend, not to speak of realizing. There's a very deep meanings here, but all explain and describe the universal form of the Lord and how the creation takes place, and the particular limbs of this universal form, for the particular form, a particular purpose. Just like Lord Brahma, who was the prime agency of Krishna in this creation, the first entity who masterminded, engineered this whole universe in full detail. For example, whatever Lord Brahma did was basically his transcendental ecstasy of love for Krishna. One time he was deeply meditating on the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. He was very absorbed in these beautiful pastimes, and tears rolling down his eyes. And these tears fell in our universe, on the various planets, particularly the earthly plane, Bharatvarsha. And these tears germinated and became the first tree in this whole universe, is the Amla tree. And the fruit of the Amla tree is Amalaki. So we have two Amla trees here on the farm. They are the first trees manifested in this entire universe. That's from the tears of Lord Brahma. Because he was in so much absorption of that love, that whatever he's done, it's the same way all other limbs in relation to Krishna, because in that deep meditation on the transcendental form, Lord Narayan, Krishna revealed himself through the Gayatri mantra, Brahma Gayatri. So he had this deep realization. Of course, just to make it very clear, Lord Brahma is not an ordinary personality. He is the most powerful demigod, and he had a very, very important task here on the behalf of the Lord. He's also known as Mahapita, the original father of this universe. But of course, ultimately always goes back to Krishna, the Sarva Karana Karanam, the cause of all causes. So Krishna is the cause of all causes. He is the ultimate Ishvara, Parama Ishvara. So everything happens by his order, by his command. Nothing happens accidentally. Everything has a reason. So when we understand these simple truths, then we can understand why and how Lord Brahma created this universe through his, even just from bodily limbs. For example, the Brahmanas came out from his mouth, from his head part, see? And you can see the Asuras, they're coming from his shadow, see? So everything had a purpose, and he was, because he was so the greatest devotee of this universe, so a great pure devotee who was basically receiving all the messages from the Super Soul, Chaitya Guru. So he was not disconnected. So he became what we know the original father of our sampradaya. Because Lord Krishna, Lord Narayan, he spoke transcendental knowledge, Divya Jnana, to great personalities Lakshmiji, Lord Shiva, Sanat Kumar, and Lord Brahma. So we are very blessed to be in that sampradaya, headed by Lord Brahma, who received the first seed, the transcendental knowledge, Gayatri Mantra. And therefore he, in his deep meditation, realized the position. Therefore he sang Brahma Samhita, famous, very beautiful. And if you really want to study Brahma Samhita, we should all study it systematically, because Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj gave very nice commentary on it. And Srila Prabhupada authorized his disciples to read the original text of Bhaktisiddhanta, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, in a very scholarly, eloquent language. A bit difficult to understand, but if you read, keep reading, you can understand his English, because always very eloquent, metaphoric, very deep, but explains these incredible potencies of the Lord, as Lord Brahma saw. Brahma Samhita, Govinda Madi Purusha, Tamaham Bhajami. And the very first verse immediately addresses Krishna's supreme position. Ishvaraha Paramaha Krishnaha Sachitananda Vigraha Anadi Adi Govindaha Sarva Karana Karanam. Sarva Karana Karanam, the cause of all causes. So Lord Brahma acting on the behalf of Krishna, and you can see back to the universal form of the Lord. Again, the various limbs, his head, his hands, arms, his eyebrow, his everything related to Krishna's form had a transcendental purpose. And as we read the chapter here, Purusha Shukta confirmed. So the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Purana, scientifically, step by step, explains how the universe, the creation takes place, how the universe is manifesting through the agencies, in our case Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma passes on knowledge to Narada, and he coming down to our present experience, perception through our teachers. And we have to hear submissively, patiently, because many of these things will come, the understanding will come by time. We cannot just expect that we understand everything. We have to go gradually, patiently study, read Srila Prabhupada's books, on and on, again. More we read, more purification takes place, more comprehension takes place, and also questions come, which is very important because we're stimulating that knowledge. We have to probe our intelligence, we have to probe our knowledge. Things don't happen automatically. And even Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that those who study this Vedic knowledge, they worship me by their intelligence. So let's become intelligent human beings and study the Shastras, the scripture, the sacred texts. And obviously we always go back to the fundamentals. Bhagavad Gita, Shri Upanishad, and we gradually proceed through the Bhagavatam. And Bhagavatam gives us a very systematic scientific process, step by step, up to the higher realms of devotional experience. And this is when we take shelter of the authorities, we take shelter of the Vaishnavas who are living examples of this experience. Just like if you study any particular skill or craft, or you're studying to be anything, engineer, architect, musician, you need to take a teacher. A teacher guides you, explains. Nothing can be learned just like that. Book knowledge is not enough. Book knowledge can be misunderstood. Therefore, we always need a guide, a spiritual master, a teacher who's accomplished in devotional service. Brahma is the original spiritual master of this universe, and all the other spiritual masters representing him. That's why we call our sampradaya Brahma, Madhvacharya, Madhva, Gaudiya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Brahma, Madhya, Gaudiya, Sampradaya. Sampradaya means a very old, ancient, timeless lineage coming from Lord Brahma himself. So when we take shelter of the representatives of these great personalities, then we also receive the blessings, we also receive the mercy. This is when we can practice successfully. And this gives us confidence also. We're not just depending on some philosophy which is fabricated, made or based on human imperfections, imperfect senses. No, we actually receiving knowledge from a perfect source, a transcendental personality who's beyond these material imperfections. They're not coming from this material dimension. They're descending from a higher dimensional knowledge, transcendental knowledge. And of course, the deep philosophy in it. And this particular chapter leads us into how the universal form and who Krishna is behind this and his purpose. There's always a purpose. Krishna's got his transcendental agenda. So, let's just keep reading. Text 5. Romani udvija jatinam yalva yagnastu sambritaha kesha smashrunak hani asya shira lobha pravidyutam. Translation. The hairs on his body are the cause of all vegetation, particularly of those trees which are required as ingredients for sacrifice. The hairs on his head and face are reservoirs of the clouds, and his nails are the breeding ground of electricity, stones and iron ores. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The polished nails of the Lord generate electricity, and the clouds rest on the hairs of his head. One can therefore collect all sorts of necessities of life from the person of the Lord. Therefore the Vedas affirm that everything that is produced is caused by the Lord. The Lord is the supreme cause of all causes. Very, very short purport again. If Srila Prabhupada gives a very short commentary, I have to be very short. I'm not qualified to analyze all the verses, but just to give us some comprehension what is happening here. So, like I said earlier, the verses are connecting to each other about the universal form of the Lord and his bodily limbs, and they're all connecting to some kind of management or function of the universe, you see. And we may not exactly understand how it works, but and it seems like metaphoric, but actually it is true. We just don't perceive it. Krishna's form, bodily features and limbs, they're all part of this manifestation, basically. Like I said about Lord Brahma, his limbs are also representing the creation. So Srila Prabhupada just confirms it. It's in the purport, the Lord is the supreme cause of all causes. Next verse, text 6. Bahavo loka palanam prayasha krema karmanam. Translation. The Lord's arms are the productive fields for the great demigods and other leaders of the living entities who protect the general masses. This is a bit more purport. I'll just read just only one page. Purport by His Divine Grace, HG Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. This important verse of Srimad Bhagavatam is corroborated and nicely explained in the Bhagavad Gita 10:41-42 as follows. Yad yad vibhuti mat sattvam shrimat pujitam evacha tat tad eva vagachatvam mama tejo sambhavam athava bahunartena kim natena tavajuna vistabhyaham idam krishnam ekam shena sito jagat. translation. Prabhupada continues the purport. There are many powerful kings, leaders, learned scholars, scientists, artists, engineers, inventors, excavators, archaeologists, industrialists, politicians, economists, business magnates, and many more powerful deities or demigods like Brahma, Shiva, Indra, Chandra, Surya, Varuna, and Marut, who are all protecting the interest of the universal affairs of maintenance in different positions. And all of them are different powerful parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord Shri Krishna is the Father of all living entities who are placed in different high and low positions according to their desires or aspirations. Some of them, as particularly mentioned above, are specifically endowed with powers by the will of the Lord. A sane person must know for certain that the living being, however powerful he may be, is neither absolute nor independent. All living beings must accept the origin of their specific power as mentioned in this verse. And if they act accordingly, then simply by discharging their respective occupational duties, they can achieve the highest perfection of life, namely eternal life, complete knowledge, and inexhaustible blessings. As long as the powerful men of the world do not accept the origin of their respective powers, namely the personality of Godhead, the actions of Maya, illusion, will continue to act. The actions of Maya are such that the powerful person, misled by the illusory material energy, wrongly accepts himself as all in all and does not develop God consciousness. As such, the false sense of egoism, namely myself and mine, has become overly prominent in the world. And there's a hard struggle for existence in human society. The intelligent class of man, therefore, must admit the Lord as the ultimate source of all energies, thus pay tribute to the Lord for his good blessings. Simply by accepting the Lord as the supreme proprietor of everything, since he is actually soul, one can achieve the highest perfection of life. Whatever a person may be, one can achieve the highest perfection of life. Whatever a person may be in the estimation of the social orders of things, if a person tries to reciprocate a feeling of love towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is satisfied with the blessings of the Lord. He will at once feel the highest peace of mind for which he is hankering life after life. Peace of mind, or in other words, the healthy state of mind, can be achieved only when the mind is situated in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The parts and parcels of the Lord are endowed with specific powers for rendering service unto the Lord. Just as a big business magnate's son are empowered with specific powers of administration, the obedient son of the father never go against the will of the father, and therefore passes life very peacefully in concurrence with the head of the family, the father. Similarly, the Lord being the father of all living beings should fully and satisfactorily discharge the duty and will of the father as faithful sons. This very mentality will at once bring peace and prosperity to human society. So this is the ultimate equation for peace, individually and collectively. When we understand that everything depends on Krishna. Krishna is the source of everything, he is the cause of everything. Obviously it requires God consciousness to properly understand this. When we cooperate in the service of the Lord, when we offer devotion, our lives, our energy, our time to please the Yagna Purusha. Yagna Purusha means all sacrifices should be offered to the Supreme. And then we offer, then we will be peaceful. Peaceful means that we're not disturbed by the ocean or waves of this material, desires or hankerings, lamenting, all these troublesome, disturbing things in our heart. Because to be peaceful, we have to be free from these unwanted desires, hankerings, for example, unsatisfied. If we're not actually engaging in devotion service, we automatically will be dissatisfied, because by nature we are servants of Krishna. Such a simple truth we have to understand. And this is also true in a larger and macro scale of human existence when we talk about a society or civilization. When the leaders of the societies understand this simple truth that we have to cooperate with the Supreme Divine and His systems. And His systems are revealed in various ways. Teachers, the scriptures, the Shastras, there are many codes for human civilization. One is the Manu Samhita, for example. Manu Samhita is a law book of mankind. There's so many rules and regulations and recommendations to live a civilized way. But of course, due to negligence and ignorance, the leaders of this civilization, so-called civilization, they neglect this. So they think they are the cause of the powers, but actually, in actual fact, Krishna gives them the power. Just like we may have a position in a large corporation, but ultimately we're depending on the mercy or promotion of a higher person, a CEO or company proprietor, whoever. We may have a particular position and we may experience some influence and power, but we can also be removed at any time. Similarly, in this universe, unless we cooperate with the Supreme Authority, our powers will vanish gradually, because it's all karmic destiny. So, an intelligent person, as Srila Prabhupada says, understand this. Therefore, they submit to the authority. They live accordingly. And that way, they are peaceful. They're not agitated by the waves of this material world. They know how to deal with it. They're not subdued by these desires, but rather conquering the desires. And of course, it means that we align ourselves with Krishna, with His teachings, with His representations, and engage in a favorable devotional service, whatever is our position. You may be a politician or whoever you are, but if you recognize Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then every chance that we move in the right direction, individually and collectively, there will be peace. And we can see in our present days, in this condition of Kali Yuga, at this point in time, we can see how much turbulence and anxiety and disturbances, because they don't have this basic formula correct. They have the original formula mixed up. So instead of 1 plus 1 equals 2, they said 1 plus 1 equals 3, and they continue the equation to a very complex, impressive formula, but the original formula has a pinprick. There's a mistake there. So they misunderstood. So they built a civilization based on illusion, not actual reality. They're denying the Supreme Authority, and they claim to be the authority, the source of all power. But no, this chapter explains, particularly this chapter, Purusha Shukta, is that actually everything has a cause, and Krishna has his divine purpose, and everything is under his supreme management, and everyone has to align with that. If you align, we'll be happy and peaceful. This is just our natural function. We cannot be happy otherwise. And we know that, especially as students of the bodies. We know when we do the right thing, we are happy. And we don't, then we're not so happy. And the body is very sensitive to this, because we know that ultimately Krishna gives everything what we need. But the atheist class, or the so-called leaders of society, they don't get this formula right, and they miss the original formula. So they are in confusion, and now the result is very troublesome. There's too much turbulence, because people are not happy, the leaders are blind, so they don't have actual solution, temporary solutions. So we go back to the original formula, that Krishna is the supreme cause of all causes, sarva karana karanam, and he is the supreme personality of Godhead, and we try to align ourselves with his supreme laws, represented by the authorities, great teachers. So Krishna is coming down, his teaching is coming down to us, to the present day. So this is what I can say about this purport. It's a very beautiful. Srimad Bhagavatam is glorified in many other scriptures also as a supreme Purana, Bhagavata Purana, and as brilliant as the sun, it can illuminate the whole universe by this beautiful Divya Jnana. And as we know, as we study the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains it systematically, Karma Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, and all Arjuna and Krishna, they clarifying this for us. So we can understand this means, okay, what's the next step? Krishna establishes himself, I'm the Supreme Brahman, I'm the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he explains Arjuna his true identity, and what to do about it. One should surrender, give up all misconceptions, adharmas. Krishna says, give up all these so-called religions, so-called philosophies, and just surrender unto me. Just give yourself to me. I'll give you protection. And he also says, do not fear, because we are fearful, because we are conditioned, we are attached. So when we surrender to Krishna, Krishna gives us protection. And he is also assuring, do not fear, I'll give you protection. So we surrender to Krishna and we take the authority of Krishna. So then we continue the study, we enter in the Bhagavatam. And the Bhagavatam systematically, step by step, scientifically explains the potencies, personality, his activities, his great devotees, his great incarnations, Lila avatars, Yuga avatars, all great personalities coming down for a particular purpose to help us. So as we study the Bhagavatam, gradually go higher and higher. When we actually have some knowledge, at least according to our human capacity, what we can perceive about Krishna, about his divine pastimes, and who Krishna is. And we also have to know our goals, because we study the Vaishnava Siddhanta, but we also have to be clear, well, I want to get there. I want to get to that beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna, Govardhan, Krishna Balaram, be with the cows, be at Vrajadham, see beautiful places. It's very attractive actually. Therefore Srila Prabhupada, as we all know, he published a Krishna book. It's a summary study of all the essence. He made it quicker for us, because most people, they're not very studious. They're not so much eager to read philosophical texts. So Srila Prabhupada just helped us, giving summary studies of these exalted pastimes, so we can at least appreciate or value there's a beautiful goal here, a beautiful supreme sublime goal, beautiful pastimes. Just like when we visit these holy places, we go to Radhakund, Chamakund, Govardhan, you just really feel the charge of that. It's so charged with that love, that absorption of Krishna's pastimes. And if you know the stories, if you know the pastimes, then you really feel that emotion. So we aiming to that, at least most of us in Mahaprabhu's movement. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he actually introduced Vraja Lila. So he kind of bypassed these ritualistic ceremonies of the Sampradaya, because you see some of the Sampradayas are very much absorbed and involved in ritualistic ceremonies. And they worship the Supreme as Narayan, as in Ashraya, in our own reverence. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us a very simple and most powerful process. By that Sankirtan Yagna, by the chanting of the holy names, we get that inspiration, that purification, that we gradually feel those emotions. Therefore the Shastras, particularly Haridas Thakur, not to speak of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who explains the potencies of the holy name, what the holy name can give us. Every morning we read about the holy name, even just a few passages. What the holy name can give us gradually takes us to the higher realms of devotional service. It's a very, very pure and very purifying process. The means and the goal is the same, chanting of the holy names. And that's why more advanced one is in Krishna consciousness, more realized he is, or she. We just want to chant the holy names constantly, remember Krishna, hang on to his lotus feet. And that is how we're experiencing the reality of Krishna consciousness. There is actually reality. There's a transcendental reality. This is not some philosophy or story books we're reading and okay. No, there's a goal here. We want to achieve the PhD degree, which is love of Godhead. Sorry. So Krishna consciousness offers and rewards one with the highest goal, which is loving Krishna purely, unconditionally. So let's all aim for that. And our life will be successful. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Rantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.